All right, so how you doing? Are you right on target where you thought you would be in this phase of your life? Are you exactly where you thought you would be at this time in your life? We've got two no's. Everybody else is just giving me stink eye. So let's talk about that. Right? Because what I notice is when life is going the way I want it to, I'm a pretty happy guy. Anybody relate to that? I'm a really happy guy when life is going exactly the way I want it to go. I find that enjoyable. I feel supported. I feel God and I are on the same page, that God's listening to me and giving me appropriate things in return. And I just feel happy. I'm a happy guy. Now, when life starts going in a different direction, has everybody had that experience? Where you want to go this way, and life goes, sorry, it's U-turn or a hard left or a hard right, and it starts going in a different direction. At that moment, what is your level of joy? Because there's really three ways to respond to it, right? So when life was going the way I wanted to go, and then something would happen, and it would start going the wrong direction, because I'm smart enough to know when my life is going the wrong direction. And you say, well, how do you know that, Richard? Well, because I know the way I want it to go, and the way I want it to go is the right direction. Can I get an amen? Right? The way I want my life to go is the right direction. So it's not going the way I want it to go. It is the wrong direction. Right? Are you with me? Okay. So when it's going the wrong direction, there's really three responses. To be really ticked off. How many of you have ever been really upset that your life was going the wrong direction? Right? I think we all have, right? Where we just feel disappointed, maybe we feel betrayed, we feel angry, the life is going the wrong direction. Now, the other response is to feel kind of neutral. And you're not really happy, but you're not really sad, but you're really paying attention. It's like, I thought I was supposed to go in this way, I felt like I was guided to go this way, and now life's going this way, and you're like, okay, Spirit, what's going on here? Right? Where you just get a little quiet and you pay attention. Now, more and more in my life, that has been my response. That when life's not going the way I thought it was going to go, I get curious. Because like, okay, so this was my bright idea, but this is the way it's going. So, okay, Spirit, what's that mean? Okay, that's the second way. The third way is that you actually get happier because you know that God is in charge of your life. Right? Now, that level of happiness takes a high degree of faith to pull off. Because life is now going the wrong direction, and you're supposed to be happy about it. Like, that goes against everything we learned in kindergarten. There's either my way or the wrong way. How many of you have siblings? Anybody have siblings? When your relationship with your siblings, was there ever a power struggle? And in your relationship with your siblings, did you want life to go your way? Can I get a loud amen? And when it didn't go your way, how happy were you about that? Not at all, right? And so we're actually learning how to trust life and get happy as we watch it go the wrong direction. Now, why would we ever do that? Well, science now has completely proven that your being happy is actually the healthiest place for you mentally, emotionally, and physically. You just can't get so happy that they have a special room for you. right? So your happiness needs to be in a certain level of happiness so they don't think you're too happy, right? But you want to push the envelope as much as you can because the more you experience happiness, the healthier you are at every level. So tonight, I want to talk about 3 things that have to do with your brain getting healthy. There's a little animated cartoony thing that Mayo Clinic put out. And you know, I like research. You know, there's the part of me that kind of geeks over research and research that proves spiritual principles. And so when I see research that proves spiritual principles, I get really excited. So this doctor at the Mayo Clinic, he created this little video on a happy brain, and I absolutely loved it. And the story's about a little brain, the little cartoon brain that they've drawn with, you know, because every cartoon brain has to have legs and arms, right? So this little brain, and this little brain's name is Brody. And Brody is not a happy camper. And the problem with Brody is that he is fixated on fear and self-doubt. And that causes Brody not to be a happy brain. But in the little animated story, Brody goes to school and learns 3 things about his brain that are designed to make him happy. And I want to share them with you. The first thing that Brody learns about a brain is that a brain feels other people's feelings as much as they do their own. Now for a doctor to write that, for a doctor to say that, for a doctor even to believe that is wackadoodle, right? Because, I mean, we heard Deepak Chopra say it, you know, 40 years ago, 30 years ago, that we all are connected to one another. But this is just like a normal doctor saying that your brain is actually wired to feel other people. And to get happy, we have to know that because your brain is wired not only to feel what other people are feeling, not only to have a level of empathy for that, but both the highs and the lows. So if someone around you is in pain, at some level you are going to experience that. And at some level, when somebody around you is happy, that is going to benefit your life. So the research on this is crazy. I mean, it is so amazing, right? They found, and this is, most of this research, and again, I'm geeking out on you. It's my birthday, just give it to me, right? So this research mainly comes out of Harvard and the UC San Diego. So they found that if you become happier, the friends living close to you are going to become probably 25% happier. So just by the act of you getting happier, the probability that the people around you are going to get 25% happier, even if they don't live with you, even if they just live somewhere around you. It doesn't even matter, like in the same vicinity, they're going to get happier. Now, what's interesting about this, if you get happier, if you are married, if you have a significant other, the likelihood of them getting happier is only 8%. That's the research, right? So if it's a friend, they're going to get 25% happier. But if it's your partner, they're only going to get 8% happier because they're so angry that you're finally getting happier. Right? They've been wanting you to get happy for years, and you refuse to get happier, so you finally getting happier. They're only going to get an 8% bump because they're so ticked that it's taking you so long to get happy. Now, if the person next door to you, if you know them, if you're friendly to them, it's going to be a 34% increase in happiness. I mean, does that say a lot about our marriages? that if I live next door to you, I'm going to get 34% happier. But if I live with you, it's only going to be an 8% bump, and that's the best I can ever do. Right? It's kind of a state of, well, I think we should just all live next door to our partners and not actually live in the same house with them, right? So what else they found? If you get happier, that happiness not only affects the people around you, but it affects people 3 degrees separation. So that means if you get happier, your friends, and no matter how close they are, they're going to get happier the closer they are. If you get happier, your friends are going to get happier, and they can actually prove that your friends' friends will get happier. So remember there's this line where Jesus said, if I be lifted up, I draw all people unto me. That is scientifically true, where Jesus said, if I be lifted up, I draw all people unto me. And it's this idea that because we're so connected, because our brain is wired for connection, because our brain is wired for community, because our brain is wired for the people around us, when Jesus said, if I be lifted up, I draw all people unto me, is literally, physically, spiritually true, because we are all connected. They found people. Okay, so how many of you know that you're an introvert or an extrovert? And you don't have to tell us who you are. We actually know who you are. But how many of you know who you are, right? Do you know if you're an introvert or an extrovert, or if you're kind of... Okay, so when you go to a party, do you go to the center of the party, or do you go to the outside of the party? Most extroverts, guess where they go? Center, right? Most introverts, guess where they go? Outside. What they found at UC San Diego was that the people in the center actually are partaking of more of the energy of happiness of being in the center. Now, if you're an introvert and you're on the outside, your happiness comes because you're not in the center. Right? But the extroverts who are in the center have to fully drink that up because it works. Okay, so the first thing they learned about the brain is the brain has a high capacity to be connected to the people around it. That's the first thing. The second thing is how they defined it in this little video, is the imaginary is real. And what that means is that the brain can't always discern the difference between what is imaginary and what physically is happening. And how many of you have ever woken up from a dream and it's a dream, but your body is like in full, you're running from that wolf, or you're being chased by a whatever, and like we're in the full sweats and heart's beating, and we're in the full experience of that. And was there really a wolf chasing you around the bedroom? Probably not, right? But we experience it. And now they took research and they found, let me 1, 2, 3, 4, I think it's 6 things that they can now prove that you can't, or there's a high degree that you can't differentiate if it is real or if it's imaginary. And the first one is beliefs. Research shows that when a person receives a placebo, believes it's the real drug, it has a higher impact of the intended effect. So when I was in grad school, I did a whole paper on the placebo effect, and the results are absolutely amazing. That when you believe something is that way, you actually respond to it as if it's that way. Positive and negative. If you think something's going to kill you and you believe it's going to kill you, it is going to have a higher negative impact on your life because you believe it is done unto you. How many have ever heard in the Bible it says, as you believe, it is done unto you? Right? That is now literally true. It's not spiritually true. It is spiritually true. But it is now literally true. We know that. 2, stress. Your brain doesn't distinguish between an imaginary fear or a real fear. If you close your eyes and imagine a stressful situation, your body will begin to act like it's actually happening to you. 3, kindness. When you're a kind person, when you're kind to a person or an animal, or you feel a sense of warmth or connection, your brain releases the same chemicals as if it was actually happening. That your brain is actually wired to release those chemicals, and it will release those chemicals just by imagining it. So if you want to have a happy moment, if you want to actually support your body in healing, if you imagine a loving, compassionate moment, your body is going to get the benefit of that. If you imagine scary moments, and that's why worry is so awful. Because what happens when you worry is your body cannot distinguish between a thought and reality. So your body, when you worry, releases the same chemicals as if a tiger was actually chasing you. Ready for the weird one? The one. 4th is eating. There is now some research that shows if you imagine, this blew my mind. If you imagine eating the full process of biting, chewing, imagining what the food tastes like, swallowing, your brain produces the same effect as if you were actually eating, and has the high probability of actually giving you the sensation that you are full. Now, come on, right? I geeked over that one for an hour, right? That to me is absolutely amazing. You want to go into a diet? Just imagine yourself eating 3 big meals a day, right? And your body actually will respond as if you've had a huge meal. I want you to try it, because I want you to see the power of your mind to change and transform your life. That spiritual teachers have been teaching this for a long time. The next one, the 5th one, is movement. Research shows that athletes actually imagining themselves competing, and it doesn't matter what it is, golf, weightlifting, tennis, any sport, that they actually improve their function, their ability through the process of imagining. And the 5th one is your immune system. Research shows without a doubt, if you imagine yourself or your immune system healthy, whole, with antibodies, immune cells, the drug that you're taking working beautifully, that your ability to imagine it actually helps create it. So I want you to see this as part of your spiritual journey. That whatever you want to create, whatever you want to experience in your life, we teach to visualize it. And as we visualize it, we begin to believe in a higher possibility, in a higher reality, in that which we haven't physically experienced yet, but in our mind, in our heart, we can experience. So the imaginary is real. And the 3rd factor of the brain that the doctor wanted to point out is that the brain can't tell the difference between physical and emotional pain. And in fact, one study showed that when people were experiencing social rejection, that when they created a study where they were socially rejected, that they actually had the same stimulation in the brain as if they were in physical pain. Now, there's also a study, and this is as far as I'm going to geek out tonight. There's actually a study that showed people who were grieving, they gave them analgesics, and it actually showed less grief, because when we're grieving, it stimulates the same area in the brain where we have physical pain, and they actually gave people aspirin, and they actually had less grief. Now, is that a part of my talk? No, but I thought it was so interesting that I had to share it with you. Okay, so here's where we're going tonight. For the last 2,500 years, at least, Spiritual teachers, in the presence of this, have been teaching 4 things consistently. Those 4 things are compassion, kindness, gratitude, and forgiveness. And the reason why I think this is so important is because those 4 things offset the negative aspects of the brain. When we offer compassion, which by definition is the concern for someone's suffering or misfortune, when we offer someone compassion, the basic spiritual principle is, as you give, so shall you receive. So when you're offering someone compassion in their suffering, as you're giving them that compassion, you're at some level experiencing the pain they're experiencing. At some level, you're connected in that pain, and by offering them compassion, that compassion comes back to you and actually has an impact on your brain, how you're wired. Now, in the moments where someone's suffering, wounded, and we make it worse, we're actually doing it to ourselves. We're actually making it harder for us to be in the world. So the first thing was compassion. Second thing was kindness. Again, as you give, so shall you receive. Gratitude. The more we give thanks, the more we acknowledge the blessings, the more we actually change our chemistry in our brain. Forgiveness. And forgiveness is defined by psychologists as generally, forgiveness is the conscious, deliberate decision to release feelings of resentment and vengeance toward a person or group who has harmed you, regardless of whether they actually deserve it or not. Now, why is that important? For the last 2,500 to 3,000 years, throughout our planet, there have been spiritually enlightened individuals who invited us to go more, to live higher, deeper than the way that most of the planet was living. You can find pockets today of cultures where vengeance is expected, where an eye for an eye is not only practiced, but expected. But over the last 25 to 3,000 years, there have been those enlightened cultures who have practiced more than that, a higher spiritual truth. And they have found that compassion, kindness, gratitude, and forgiveness actually resets their brain, heals them, and leads to greater joy. And that's the thing that I want to really acknowledge. That when we have compassion, kindness, gratitude, forgiveness, there's a reason why it works. Science now can prove why it works, but because it works, those things now actually heal us and make us happy. Most of us were taught, when I get the life that I want perfect, I'm going to be happy. If I get the house I want, the car I want, the spouse I want, when everything is exactly perfect, then I'm going to be happy. And some of us have had that everything perfect and found that even that wasn't enough. But these 4 things, compassion, kindness, gratitude, and forgiveness, heal our soul and lead us to happiness. You know, I've been doing this series on finding. Last week we talked about finding forgiveness. I did finding inner strength, finding beauty, finding power. I've been doing this series on finding. And for me, many of us in this culture are looking for joy, and we're looking in the wrong place. Because in our consumer culture, the idea is when I get it all right, when everything's perfect, then I'm finally going to be happy. And for the last 2,500 or 3,000 years, there's been these spiritual teachers that have come along and said, no, if you want to truly be happy, practice compassion, practice kindness, practice gratitude, practice forgiveness. That will make you truly happy. But it doesn't look like that. It looks like, well, yeah, that's the spiritual right thing to do, but it's not really going to make me happy. I mean, I'll do it, but I'm not going to be happy about it, but I'll do it, right? But what we find is that's actually the path. If you truly want to be happy, live compassion, kindness, gratitude, and forgiveness, and you'll be profoundly happy. And it's that kind of switcheroo that we need to pay attention to. That all these great spiritual teachers of all faiths, right? From Buddha to Christ, all the great spiritual teachers have taught similar things. If you want to be happy, practice compassion and kindness and gratitude and forgiveness, and you'll be happier. Yeah, but I really want what I want. Right? I really want this big of a house and this car, and this is what I only want. And it's like, okay, got it. But if you want to be happy, practice compassion and kindness and gratitude and forgiveness, and you'll be happy. So tonight, you ready for your homework? Here we go, right? There was a point in all this madness. And so if you want to write down 4 things from tonight, here they are. You ready? Compassion, kindness, gratitude, and forgiveness. Does everybody have it? Do you know what each of those words mean? Now, it's not always easy to apply them, but their definitions are pretty simple. We know what they are. We know to be compassionate means that we are acknowledging others that are in pain, and we're doing what we can do to make a difference. We know that kindness is an act of being friendly or generous or considerate or kind to someone for anything. It could be an animal, it could be a friend, it could be a stranger. It's an act of kindness. Gratitude is being thankful, it's being grateful. And forgiveness is willing to let go of a resentment even when we don't want to. And those 4 things over and over will make you happy. They'll just make you happy. Now, in the beginning, it will first tick you off. True, right? It just will, right? In the beginning, it's like, well, I don't want to forgive, or I don't want to be grateful, I don't want to be kind. This person doesn't deserve my kindness. I'm not going to be compassionate because that's a dirty dog, and I don't want to do that, right? But as we mature, we learn that these 4 things over and over and over again make a difference. Can I say them one more time? Say them with me. Compassion, kindness, gratitude, and forgiveness. That's it. That's it. The basis of all spiritual thought over the last 3,000 years is compassion, kindness, gratitude, and forgiveness. The whole work, the last 3,000 years, those 4 things that I bet I could get a 5-year-old to memorize. Right? That we can do that. We can do that. 4 things. You ready? Let's take it into prayer. I invite you to open your mind, your heart, your soul to the activity of God right here, right now. And I want you to ask yourself a question. How happy do you want to be? Because sometimes we ask ourselves that question and we realize, oh, I really do just want to be cranky right now. But when I really want to be happy, really truly want to be happy, there's 4 things that I need to come back to over and over and over again. Compassion, kindness, gratitude, and forgiveness. That's it. 4 things. Compassion, kindness, gratitude, and forgiveness. Holy Spirit, help us live a spiritual life. Help us put away all of our ego needs and all of our story and all of our drama and all of our unforgiveness. And help us open our mind, our heart, and soul to compassion, kindness, gratitude, and forgiveness. And so it is. Amen.